Life has its quiet ironies. Sometimes two people cross paths every day without truly seeing each other. Other times, a single glance is all it takes for everything to change. Helena and Augusto lived in the same space for 3 years, breathing the same air, yet inhabiting completely opposite worlds. She, invisible to most eyes, carried the weight of an early widowhood and dreams buried with her husband. He, powerful and seemingly untouchable, hid behind a mask of control, a heart shattered by a divorce that had made him a headline and a prisoner of himself. No one would have imagined that, between the cold gleam of marble and the silence of empty corridors, something so profound could be born. But it was. Discreet, contained, almost forbidden, a lingering gaze, a good morning that sounded different, a presence that little by little became essential, until she left, without warning, without goodbye, leaving behind only an impossible void. And just when Augusto finally accepted moving on, when he announced to the world a marriage that seemed to solve everything, fate decided to play its final card. Helena reappeared, no longer the invisible woman he had known, but someone who now occupied a place by his side, elegant, transformed, unattainable. And between them, stronger than any social barrier, pulsed a truth neither dared to utter. The love they had tried to deny was still alive. This is the story of two wounded hearts who discovered that sometimes true love demands more than courage. It demands surrender, it demands forgiveness, it demands impossible choices. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch the heart. Augusto Ferraz was accustomed to silence. Not the ordinary silence, the kind we fill with music or the noise of the world outside, but the silence that resides within someone who has lost the capacity to feel. He commanded a corporate empire with a firm hand, signed multi-million-dollar contracts without flinching, and saw men tremble before his decisions. But at the end of the day, when the office lights dimmed and he stood alone before that panoramic view of Chicago, all he felt was emptiness. It was a Friday night, past 9 o'clock. The building was nearly deserted. Augusto walked down the corridor toward the elevator when he heard the faint sound of a cloth being wrung out. He turned, and he saw her. Helena was on her knees, cleaning the marble floor with her usual dedication. The understated navy blue uniform, her brown hair pulled back in a simple bun, her hands red from hard work. She didn't see him approach. She was focused, almost meditative, as if that repetitive motion was her way of finding peace. He stopped. He didn't know why. "Good evening," Augusto said, his voice sounding strange even to himself. Helena looked up, startled. For an instant, their eyes met, and something happened. Something neither of them could name. It wasn't immediate attraction. It was recognition, as if, in that brief crossing of gazes, two weary souls truly saw each other. "Good evening, sir," she replied, her voice low, almost a whisper, and she lowered her eyes again, returning to her work. Augusto stood there, frozen, for a few seconds that felt like an eternity. Then, not knowing what else to say, he headed for the elevator. But as he stepped in, he turned back one last time. Helena was still cleaning the floor, but there was something different in her posture. She, too, was thinking about that encounter. That was the first time. But it wouldn't be the last. In the following days, Augusto began to notice Helena. Not intentionally, but in a way that bothered him precisely because it was involuntary. He saw her in the corridors, always discreet, always in motion. She never met his gaze. She never spoke more than necessary. And yet, her presence was impossible to ignore. There was something about her that stood out. It wasn't just her contained beauty, but the way she carried a silent dignity, as if she had learned to be invisible, but had never stopped being whole. A week after that first encounter, Augusto stayed late again. This time it was on purpose. He wanted to see her. He needed to understand why this woman occupied his thoughts in such a disturbing way. When he found her, Helena was in his office, emptying the trash can. She didn't see him enter. "Do you always work this late?" Augusto asked, leaning against the doorframe. Helena turned, startled. Yes, sir, it's my shift." "Augusto, you can call me Augusto." She hesitated, as if this were dangerous territory. "I'd prefer not to, sir. It's more appropriate." Augusto smiled, a small smile but genuine. He hadn't smiled like that in a long time. "Are you always this formal?" "I am always what I need to be," Helena replied, and there was a firmness in those words that surprised him. He took a step forward. "And what do you need to be now?" Helena met his gaze. For a moment, vulnerability flashed in her eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. "Someone who finishes her work and goes home." And without waiting for a response, she left the office. Augusto stood there, alone, with the strange sensation that he had just lost something important. The encounters became frequent. Augusto began to invent excuses to stay late. Helena tried to avoid him, but it was impossible. They crossed paths in the corridor, in the elevator, in the empty break room, and little by little, the words began to flow. "Why do you do this work?" Augusto asked one night as he watched her clean the conference table. Helena stopped. She hadn't expected that question. "Why do you do yours?" she returned. Augusto chuckled softly. "Touché. I work because I have to survive," Helena said without preamble. "I don't have the luxury of choice." "And if you did," she met his gaze, "I would have chosen a different life." There was pain in those words. Augusto felt it. "Did you lose someone?" he ventured. Helena closed her eyes for a moment. "I lost everything." And before he could reply, she left. Before continuing, tell us where you are watching from and subscribe to receive heartwarming stories every day. That night, Augusto couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Helena, about the way she carried her pain with such dignity, about the strength it took to wake up every day and keep going, even when everything seemed lost. He knew that kind of pain too, only his was hidden behind expensive suits and cold decisions. The next day, Augusto made a decision. He didn't know if it was the right one, but he knew he had to do it. When he saw Helena in the hallway, he called out to her. "Can I talk to you, in private?" She hesitated, but she agreed. They went into an empty room. Augusto closed the door. "I know I'm your boss. I know there's a huge distance between us, but I can't stop thinking about you." Helena's eyes widened. "Sir, Augusto, please." She took a deep breath. "This can't happen. You know that." "I know," he admitted. "But I also know that for the first time in years, I feel something, and I don't want to ignore it." Helena looked at him, and there was as much fear as there was desire in her gaze. "I can't afford to feel," she whispered. "I can't lose again." "What if you don't lose? What if it's different?" She shook her head. "It's not. It never is." And she left the room, leaving Augusto alone with the certainty that he had just touched something too profound to ignore. But the heart had other plans. Helena returned home that night with a tightness in her chest. The small apartment she shared with her mother-in-law, Marta, was on the outskirts of the south side. 2 simple rooms, peeling paint, furniture that told stories of a life that had been better. But it was all they had, and somehow it was still home. Marta was in the kitchen making tea. She was almost 70, but she still moved with the determination of someone who had never given up. When she saw Helena come in, she smiled. "You're late today, dear." "Had a lot of work," Helena lied, taking off her shoes. Marta watched her with that look only mothers know how to have, the look that sees through any mask. You seem different. Helena sat at the table. I'm just tired. It's not tiredness. It's something else. Helena sighed. There was no point in lying to Marta. I met someone. Her mother-in-law stopped what she was doing. Someone from work? Yes. And is it mutual? Helena lowered her eyes. It doesn't matter. It can't happen. Marta sat beside her and took her hand. Helena, you have a right to be happy. My son loved you, and he would want you to move on. But I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm ready. No one is ever ready, dear. You just feel it. Augusto also couldn't sleep that night. He stood on the balcony of his apartment in the gardens, watching the illuminated city, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He thought about Helena, about the way she had looked at him, about the fear he had seen in her eyes, and about the truth he himself was trying to deny. That woman had awakened something in him that he believed was dead. His phone rang. It was Marcelo, his partner and only true friend. Augusto, you disappeared from the event today. Everyone was asking about you. Wasn't feeling it. You're never feeling it. But you need to show up. People are starting to talk. Let them talk. Marcelo sighed on the other end of the line. What's going on with you? Ever since that divorce, you've shut down. But now, it seems worse. Augusto hesitated. He didn't usually talk about feelings, but with Marcelo it was different. I met someone. There was a pause. Really? Who? Someone I shouldn't have met. Complicated. Very. Marcelo laughed. Man, you always pick the complicated ones. Augusto smiled, but it was a sad smile. I guess I don't know how to pick any other way. In the following days, Helena tried to keep her distance. She changed her schedule, avoided the floors where she knew Augusto would be, but it was useless. The building seemed smaller, and their eyes always met. One afternoon, while cleaning the conference room, Helena found a letter on the table. It had no addressee, just one sentence, handwritten. Sometimes courage isn't doing, it's allowing. She recognized the handwriting. It was Augusto's. Helena put the letter in her pocket and tried not to think about it. But all day long those words echoed in her mind. Augusto, for his part, felt torn. He knew he was crossing lines, that this could complicate everything, but at the same time, he couldn't stop. Helena had something he had never found in anyone else. She was real. She didn't wear masks. She didn't lie about who she was. And somehow, that made him want to be better. One day, he found her in the break room, alone, having coffee. He entered quietly. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the chair beside her. Helena agreed, tense. They sat in silence for a few moments. Then Augusto spoke. "I know you're trying to stay away. It's for the best for both of us." "Best for who? For you, or for what others will think?" Helena stared at him. "For my heart. I can't go through this again." "Go through what?" "Losing someone I love." The confession slipped out before she could stop it. And in that moment, they both understood. It wasn't just attraction. It was something much bigger. Augusto leaned forward. "Helena, I'm not going to hurt you. You can't promise that." "No, but I can promise that I'll try." She closed her eyes, and for the first time she allowed herself to imagine that maybe, just maybe, this could be different. But life has a cruel way of reminding us that nothing is simple. That same week, Helena received news that would change everything. Her mother, Dona Marta, had taken a turn for the worse. Her diabetes was advancing. She needed care that the public system couldn't provide. And the health insurance Helena had managed to afford was about to be cancelled due to a lack of funds. Helena knew what she had to do. She needed more money, and fast. That's when the opportunity arose. An unexpected proposal, but one that would come with a price too high to pay. The offer came from where Helena least expected it. Clarice Amaral, the majority shareholder of the company and one of the most powerful women in the country, requested a meeting. Helena found it strange. In 3 years of working there, she had never exchanged more than a distant glance with the executive. But on that Monday morning, she was summoned to her office. Clarice was seated behind a glass desk, impeccable in her white power suit. She was around 50, her hair perfectly styled, and her gaze offered no room for vulnerability. "Sit down, Helena," she said, her voice firm but not hostile. Helena obeyed, feeling uneasy. "I know you must be wondering why I called you here." "Yes, ma'am." Clarice interlaced her fingers on the desk. "I've been observing you. Discreet, dedicated, always punctual. And I have a proposition." Helena frowned, confused. "A proposition?" "I need someone I can trust to look after my mother. She has advanced Alzheimer's and lives with me. The person who was caring for her just quit. I thought of you." Helena hesitated. This seemed too good to be true. I don't have any formal training in elder care." "You don't need it. You need patience, empathy, and responsibility. 3 things you clearly possess. The salary would be 3 times what you earn now, and you'd have scheduled days off." Helena felt her heart race. This was the answer to her problems. Donna Marta could get the treatment she needed. "I accept," she said without a second thought. Clarice smiled, but there was something calculated in that smile. "Excellent. You can start next week." When Helena left Clarice's office, she felt dizzy. She couldn't believe her luck. But as she turned the corner, she bumped into Augusto. "Helena," he said, surprised. "What were you doing in Clarice's office?" She hesitated. "She offered me a job. I'm going to take care of her mother." Augusto tensed. "You accepted?" "Yes. Why? Is there a problem?" He ran a hand through his hair, visibly uncomfortable. "Clarice doesn't do anything without a reason. She's strategic." "Augusto, it's an opportunity. I need this money." He took a deep breath. "I know, just be careful." Helena didn't understand, but at that moment, hope spoke louder than suspicion. Augusto, for his part, knew exactly what Clarice was doing. She had always known how to read people, and somehow she had sensed the tension between him and Helena. That offer wasn't generosity, it was control. That night, Augusto went to Clarice's office. "You hired Helena to care for your mother," he said, cutting to the chase. Clarice looked up from the document she was reading. "So? Why?" She smiled. "Because she's good at what she does, and because I need someone I can trust. Clarice, don't play games with me." She stood up, walked over to him, and stared him down. "Augusto, you're an intelligent man, but sometimes you act like a lovesick teenager. That woman isn't for you. She doesn't belong in our world." "And who decides that?" "Reality," Clarice replied coldly. "Do you really want to expose her to everything that comes with you? The press, the judgment, the social divide? You'll destroy her, and you know it." Augusto clenched his fists. "You have no right to decide for me." "I'm not deciding. I'm just reminding you of what you already know." And she turned away, ending the conversation. Helena started working at Clarice's house a week later. The mansion was in the exclusive neighborhood of the Gardens, an imposing estate with vast grounds and a structure that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Clarice's mother, Donna Irene, was a delicate elderly lady with white hair and eyes that still sparkled, even lost in the fog of forgetfulness. "Who are you?" Donna Irene asked when Helena entered the room. "I'm Helena. I'm here to take care of you." Donna Irene smiled. "You're pretty. My son would have liked you." Helena didn't understand. Clarice had no siblings, but she didn't question it. She knew the disease made one's mind wander. The days passed. Helena devoted herself to Donna Irene with genuine affection, and little by little she formed a bond with the elderly woman. but every time she saw Clarice, she felt an inexplicable discomfort, as if she were being watched, judged. One afternoon, as she was helping Donna Irene bathe, the elderly woman grasped her hand. "You lost someone too, didn't you?" Helena was surprised. "How did you know?" "I see it in your eyes. It's the same pain I saw in my daughter's eyes when she lost her love." Helena didn't know what to say. What happened? Donna Irene sighed. She chose power over love, and she never forgave herself for it. Those words echoed in Helena's mind for days. Meanwhile, Augusto was growing more distant. Meetings, travel, commitments that kept him busy, but Helena knew it wasn't just work. He was pulling away. Maybe Clarice had been right. Maybe this was truly impossible. It was then, on a rainy night, that Helena received a message. "I need to see you, please, Augusto." She hesitated. She knew she should say no, but her stubborn heart had already made up its mind. Helena got off the bus under the light drizzle beginning to fall on Chicago. Augusto's message still glowed on her old cell phone screen. She hadn't replied, but she was there, standing in front of the address he'd sent, a small, unassuming coffee shop in Lincoln Park, away from the eyes of the elite who moved in the same circles he did. She went inside. The place was cozy, with dim lighting and only a few tables occupied. Augusto was in the back, his back to the door, looking out the window. When he saw her reflection in the glass, he turned. Their eyes met, and everything seemed to stop. Helena walked towards him, her steps hesitant. She sat down without a word. For a few moments, the silence between them was more eloquent than any speech. "Thanks for coming," Augusto said finally. "Why did you call me?" He took a deep breath. "Because I can't pretend anymore that I don't feel what I feel." Helena closed her eyes. "Augusto, let me speak, please." She agreed, tense. "I tried to pull away. I tried to believe Clarice was right, that this makes no sense, that we're from different worlds. But none of that matters, because when I think of you, nothing else makes sense. Only you." Helena felt tears sting her eyes. "You don't know what you're saying." "I do. For the first time in years, I know exactly what I'm feeling." She looked at him vulnerable. "And what do you expect from me, Augusto? That I believe this can work? That I risk my heart again, knowing that in the end I'll lose everything?" "You won't lose. How can you be sure?" Augusto reached out and took her hand across the table. The touch was electric. "Because I won't let you." Helena felt the world crumble and rebuild itself at the same time. She wanted to believe, desperately, but the fear was greater. "I need time," she whispered. "I'll give you all the time you need," Augusto replied, "but don't disappear again. Please." She nodded, unable to speak. When Helena returned home that night, Mrs. Marta was awake, waiting for her in the living room. "You went to see him, didn't you?" Helena didn't deny it. "I did. And I don't know what to do, Marta. I'm scared." Mrs. Marta stood up and hugged her daughter-in-law. "Honey, fear is part of it, but it can't be what decides for you. My son loved you, and if he were here, he'd want you to be happy, even if it's not with him." Helena cried. She cried for all she had lost, for all she was still afraid of losing, and for the fragile but real possibility that maybe, just maybe, she could allow herself to love again. The next few days were strange. Helena continued working at Clarice's house, caring for Mrs. Irene with dedication, but now every interaction with the executive seemed charged with tension. Clarice watched. She calculated, and Helena felt like she was being tested. One afternoon, as Helena was organizing Mrs. Irene's medications, Clarice entered the room. "Can I speak with you? In private?" Helena nodded, tense. They went to the library. Clarice closed the door. "I know Augusto contacted you." Helena paled. "How did you—" "I always know," Clarice cut in. "And I'll be direct. You seem like a good woman, Helena, but you need to understand something. Augusto is not a simple man. He carries a heavy past, a divorce that ruined his reputation, an ex-wife who still haunts him, and a public life that doesn't forgive mistakes. Why are you telling me this? Clarice looked at her. Because I like you. And I don't want to see you get hurt. If you get involved with him, you'll become a target. The press, society, even the company itself, everyone will question, judge, and in the end, you'll be the villain of the story. Helena felt a tightness in her chest. And what if I don't care? Clarice smiled, but it was a sad smile. Then you're braver than I was. That night, Helena couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Clarice's words, the warning, the veiled threat, and the truth she already knew. Loving Augusto would mean facing a world that would never accept her. But at the same time, for the first time in years, she felt something beyond the pain. She felt hope. Augusto, for his part, had made a decision. He wasn't going to hide anymore. He wasn't going to let fear or others' opinions decide for him. The next morning, he went to Clarice's house. He asked to speak with Helena. When she came down, he was in the garden, waiting. Seeing her, he smiled. And in that smile, Helena saw everything she needed to know. "Come with me," he said. "Where to? It doesn't matter, just come." She hesitated, but for the first time she chose to believe. They went to a nearby park. They walked in silence, side by side, until they reached an empty bench. They sat down. "I know you're scared," Augusto said. "I am too, scared of hurting you. Scared of not being enough, scared of it all falling apart again. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe alone." Helena looked at him, her eyes shining. "Augusto, I don't know if I can do this." "Then let me show you that you can." And for the first time, he leaned in and touched her face, gently, delicately, as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Helena closed her eyes, and in that instant, she allowed herself to feel. But when she opened her eyes, she saw something that made her freeze. Across the park, a woman was watching them, blonde, elegant, with a look that Helena recognized immediately. Hate. "Augusto," she whispered. "Who is that woman?" He turned and paled. "Fernanda." "Who?" "My ex-wife." And in that moment, Helena understood. Augusto's past wasn't buried. It was alive, and it was coming for her. Fernanda crossed the park with firm steps, every movement calculated to draw attention. She wore an impeccable white dress, designer sunglasses, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. When she stopped before them, she slowly removed her sunglasses, revealing eyes as cold as ice. "Augusto," she said, her voice sweet but venomous. "What a surprise to find you here, and with company." Augusto stood up tense. "Fernanda, what do you want?" She ignored the question and looked at Helena, appraising her from head to toe with barely disguised contempt. "So, this is it, the new distraction." Helena stood up too, but said nothing. Her heart was pounding, but she held her ground. "That's none of your business," Augusto said, his voice hard. Fernanda laughed, a short, cutting laugh. "None of my business? Augusto, do you really think you can rewrite history, that you can pretend we never happened? We broke up 2 years ago, get over it." "Broke up? Honey, you left me, you humiliated me publicly, and now you show up with this?" She gestured towards Helena with disdain. Helena felt anger rising. "I have a name," she said, her voice firm. Fernanda raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Oh, she talks. How brave. And tell me, dear, do you know who he is, what he did to me?" "Fernanda, that's enough," Augusto cut in. But she continued, now looking directly at Helena. "He'll make you believe you're special, that you're different, but in the end, he'll trade you for someone more convenient, like he did with me." "That's a lie." Augusto said, his voice trembling with contained rage. Is it? Then why don't you tell her the real reason for our divorce? Why don't you tell her about the affair? Helena felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Affair, she whispered, looking at Augusto. He closed his eyes. It wasn't like that. Of course it was, Fernanda said, triumphant. He cheated on me with an associate from the firm, and when I found out, I wanted to save face. But he preferred to expose me. He preferred to destroy our marriage publicly. Helena looked at Augusto, waiting for him to deny it, to say it was a lie. But he said nothing. Augusto, she called, her voice breaking. He opened his eyes, and there was so much pain there that Helena almost forgot her own. Helena, I'll explain, but not here, not like this. Fernanda smiled. See? He can't even deny it. Good luck, darling. You'll need it. And she left, leaving a trail of destructive silence. Helena stood frozen, trying to process what she had just heard. Augusto took a step towards her, but she recoiled. No, she said, her voice trembling. Don't come near me right now. Helena, please, let me explain. Explain what? That you lied to me, that you hid who you really are. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. That's the same thing. Augusto ran a hand over his face, desperate. I cheated on Fernanda. It's true, but it wasn't like she made it sound. Our marriage was already dead for years. She cheated on me, too. We were always at war. And yes, I made a mistake, but I paid for it. I lost everything. My reputation, my peace, my ability to trust anyone. Helena shook her head, tears streaming down her face. And you thought you didn't need to tell me, that I didn't have the right to know. I was going to tell you, but not now, not like this. When, Augusto? After I fell truly in love? After there was no turning back? He looked at her, vulnerable. Aren't you already in love? Helena closed her eyes, and when she opened them, there was a decision there. I need to go. Helena, I need to go. And she left, leaving Augusto alone in the park, with the feeling that he had just lost the only thing that truly mattered. Helena returned home in a state of shock. When she arrived, Donna Marta noticed immediately. What happened? Helena collapsed into her mother-in-law's arms and cried. She cried for everything, for the past that still haunted her, for the present that seemed impossible, and for the future that once again was slipping through her fingers. I knew it, she sobbed. I knew I shouldn't have believed. Donna Marta stroked her hair in silence, letting her vent, and when Helena finally calmed down, the older woman spoke. Daughter, I don't know what happened, but I know one thing. Pain is part of love, and if you're feeling so much pain, it's because you felt something real. Helena wiped her tears. But what if he hurts me again? And what if he doesn't? What if you're throwing away the only chance at happiness out of fear? Helena didn't know how to answer. Augusto, meanwhile, spent the night alone in his apartment, staring at his phone, waiting for a message that never came. He thought about going to Helena's, about begging, about explaining everything again, but he knew it wouldn't help. She needed time, and he, for the first time in his life, would have to respect that. But what Augusto didn't know was that Fernanda wasn't finished. She never finished. The next morning, the news exploded. A gossip article on a popular website featured photos of Augusto and Helena in the park. The headline read, "Billionaire CEO caught with employee. New controversy?" Helena saw the article on her phone, sent by a colleague. She felt her world crumble. Clarice called minutes later. We need to talk, now. When Helena arrived at the mansion, Clarice was waiting for her in the living room, her expression serious. Did you see it? I did. Then you know this complicates everything. Helena felt tears welling up again. I didn't want this. I know, but it's done now, and you have two choices. You face it, or you give up. Helena looked at Clarice, confused. Why are you helping me? Clarice sighed. because I've been where you are, and I chose wrong." And for the first time, Helena saw something human in that woman. Helena spent the next few days in a state of suspension. Every time she left her apartment, she felt eyes on her, whispers. Her phone rang incessantly, friends and acquaintances wanting to know if the story was true. She'd turn it off, ignore it, but the weight of the exposure was crushing. Mrs. Marta tried to comfort her, but Helena could barely talk. She'd spend hours sitting on the small balcony of her apartment, staring at the horizon, trying to understand how her life had become a public spectacle. Augusto tried to call. He sent texts, but Helena didn't reply, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know what to say. At the company, the situation was even worse. The cleaning staff, who used to greet her now, looked away. The security guards whispered. And, on a rainy morning, her supervisor called her into his office. "Helena, we need to talk about your situation." She already knew what was coming. "Am I being fired?" He sighed. "Not exactly, but it would be better for everyone if you resigned. Understand? It avoids embarrassment." Helena felt anger surge. Embarrassment for whom? For me or for you? "Helena, you know how things are. The company needs to maintain an image, and with this exposure, I didn't do anything wrong." "I know, but perception is what matters." Helena stood up, trembling with indignation. "Then I resign. I won't stay in a place where I'm treated like a problem." She walked out, not looking back. When Augusto found out, it was immediate. He walked into Clarice's office without knocking. "Did you fire Helena?" Clarice looked up, calm. "She resigned." "Because you pressured her." "I didn't pressure anyone. I just made it clear that, with the exposure, it would be difficult for her to continue." Augusto slammed his hand on the desk. "You did this on purpose, to separate us." Clarice stood up, facing him. "I did this to protect the company, and to protect her. Do you think she can handle what's coming? The press, the judgments, people destroying her reputation. You're going to drag her into your world, Augusto, and in the end, you'll destroy her." "You don't know that. I do, because I've lived it and I wouldn't wish it on anyone." Augusto took a deep breath, trying to control himself. "If you really cared about her, you'd give her a choice." Clarice met his gaze, and there was something sad in her eyes. Choosing between love and survival isn't a choice, Augusto. It's cruelty. That night, Augusto went to Helena's apartment. He knocked. Mrs. Marta answered. "She doesn't want to see you." "I know, but I have to try." Mrs. Marta studied him for a long moment. Then finally, she let him in. Helena was in the living room, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the wall. When she saw Augusto, she didn't move. "I asked you not to come. I know, but I can't stay away from you." She finally looked at him, and there was so much weariness in her eyes. "Augusto, you don't understand. I lost my job, my privacy, my peace, all because of this. I'll fix it." "You can't, because the problem isn't just you. It's the world you live in. It's the difference between us. It's everything I always knew would be impossible." Augusto knelt in front of her. "Helena, I don't care about the world. I care about you. But I care, Augusto, I care because I'm the one who will pay the price, not you. Then let me pay it with you." She shook her head, tears falling. "You can't, because in the end, you'll always have your name, your money, your power. And me, I'll always be the housekeeper who seduced the boss." "You're not that." "But that's how they'll see me, and I can't take it anymore, Augusto. I can't." He held her hands, desperate. "Then tell me what to do. Tell me how to fix this." Helena looked at him, and there was as much love as despair in her eyes. "You can't, because there's no solution to this problem." Augusto left that apartment with a broken heart, and for the first time in his life, He understood what it meant to love someone so much you'd want to give up to protect them, but he wasn't going to give up, not yet. In the following days, Augusto made drastic decisions. He called a meeting with the board of directors, and in front of everyone, he made an announcement. I am temporarily stepping down as president. The silence was absolute. Augusto, have you lost your mind? Marcelo said, shocked. No, I'm doing what I should have done a long time ago. I'm choosing what truly matters. Clarice stared at him, incredulous. You're going to throw it all away for a woman who won't even talk to you? Augusto smiled, a sad but firm smile. Yes, because she's worth more than any empire. And he walked out, leaving everyone in shock. When Helena heard, she was speechless. Augusto had given up everything for her, but instead of joy, she felt fear, because now the responsibility was hers, and she didn't know if she was ready for it. It was Mrs. Irene, Clarice's mother, who brought clarity. One afternoon, while Helena was visiting her, still caring for her, even without a formal job, the elderly woman took her hand. Do you love him? Helena hesitated, but the truth was impossible to deny. I do. Then why are you running? Because I'm scared. Mrs. Irene smiled. Fear is good. It means it's real, but it can't be what decides for you. Helena looked at the elderly woman, confused. What do you mean? I was scared too, and I let fear take away the only man I ever truly loved, and every day since I've regretted it. Don't let fear steal your chance at happiness, Helena. Don't be like me. And in that moment, Helena understood. It wasn't about not being afraid. It was about choosing despite it. Helena spent the night awake, thinking about Mrs. Irene's words. The fear was still there, pulsing with every beat of her heart. But something had shifted. For the first time, she could see beyond it. She could see Augusto. She could see the possibility that perhaps love was worth the risk. When the sun rose, she made her decision. Augusto stood in his apartment, gazing out the window, when the intercom buzzed. He wasn't expecting anyone. He answered, a little wary. It's me, Helena's voice said. Augusto's heart leaped. Come on up. When he opened the door, she was there, her eyes red from a sleepless night, but with a determination he hadn't seen before. Can I come in? Always. They moved into the living room. They stood facing each other, the silence thick with everything left unsaid. I came because, Helena began, her voice trembling, because I'm tired of being afraid. Augusto took a step forward. Helena, let me finish, please. He nodded. For years, I believed love was a sentence, that loving meant losing. And when I met you, I tried to run from it. I tried to protect myself, but I can't, because you made me feel something I thought I'd never feel again. You made me believe I could still be happy, and that terrifies me, but it also completes me. Augusto cupped her face in his hands. You don't have to be afraid with me, I promise. I know, she whispered, and that's why I'm here, because even with the fear, I choose you. I choose us. And for the first time, without hesitation, without fear, they kissed. It was a slow, deep kiss, charged with everything they had held back for so long. Pain, hope, surrender. It was all there, in that moment. When they broke apart, Augusto rested his forehead against hers. I love you, Helena, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving you made the right choice. I love you too, she said, tears falling, and I'm going to believe it, even when it's hard. The following days were about rebuilding. Augusto returned to the company, but with a different demeanor, lighter, more human. And Helena, with his support, began to explore new paths. She no longer wanted to be invisible. She wanted to build something of her own, and, with the help of Donna Marta and some contacts Augusto discreetly arranged, She started setting up a small palliative care business. Clarice watched it all from a distance, silently, and one morning she called Augusto aside for a talk. "Are you happy?" she asked, cutting to the chase. "I am." She nodded, thoughtful. "Then I was wrong." Augusto raised an eyebrow, surprised. "What? I thought protecting you meant keeping you away, but I guess protecting you means letting you choose, even if I don't agree." He smiled. "Thank you, Clarice." She offered a small, rare smile. "Just don't disappoint me. Or her." "I won't." But not everything was resolved. Fernanda was still out there, and her revenge was just beginning. One afternoon, Helena was leaving her apartment when she was approached by an unfamiliar woman. "Helena, right?" She nodded, suspicious. "I'm a journalist. I'd like to hear your side of the story about you and Augusto." Helena felt her internal alarm bells ringing. "I have nothing to say, but Fernanda does. And she's giving interviews, talking about you. It would be only fair for you to have a voice too." Helena shook her head. "I'm not playing that game." And she walked away, her heart pounding. When Augusto found out, he was furious. He called Fernanda immediately. "What do you think you're doing?" "Just telling my story, darling. People deserve to know the truth." "The truth or your lie?" Fernanda laughed. "Lie? Augusto, you cheated on me, that's a fact. And now you're with a woman who used to be your employee. Another fact. People will draw their own conclusions. You're doing this out of revenge. I'm doing this because you deserve to suffer as I suffered." Augusto took a deep breath, trying to control himself. "Fernanda, what do you want?" There was a pause. "I want you to publicly admit that you cheated on me, that I wasn't the problem, that you destroyed our marriage. And if I do that, will you leave Helena alone? Maybe. No, you will. Or I'll expose everything you've done too. And believe me, I have proof." Fernanda was silent. "You wouldn't dare. Try me." He hung up. That night, Augusto talked to Helena about everything. "I'm going to make a public statement," he said. "I'll take responsibility for my mistakes, and I'll make it clear that you have nothing to do with this." "Augusto, you don't have to. I do. Because I won't let her destroy you, not when we finally found this." Helena took his hand. "Then we'll do it together. I won't let you face this alone." He smiled. "Together." The interview was scheduled for the following week. Augusto and Helena, side by side, told their story. He owned up to his mistakes. She spoke about her journey, and for the first time, they controlled the narrative. The reaction was mixed. Some supported them, others criticized, but in the end, they were together, and that was what mattered. Fernanda, seeing that she had lost, finally gave up, but not without one last jab. She sent a message to Helena. "You won, but remember, love is easy at the start. The hard part comes later." Helena read it and deleted it, because she knew the woman was wrong. Love was never easy, not at the start, not in the middle, not at the end, but it was worth it, and she was willing to fight for it. 6 months later, life had found a new rhythm. Helena now had her own consolidated business. Caring for people was her calling, and she was finally doing it her way. Donna Marta was better, with the right treatment and the support she had always needed. And Augusto. Augusto had learned to live again. They weren't living together yet. Not because they didn't want to, but because they wanted to build things at the right pace. No rush, no pressure, just being. But they spent almost every night together. Sometimes at his place, sometimes at Helena's small apartment. And little by little, they were building something neither of them had ever had before. A true, mature love based on conscious choices. One Sunday afternoon, Augusto took Helena somewhere special. A small, quiet property on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by trees. "What is this place?" she asked, her eyes wide with wonder. "It belonged to my grandmother. Augusto explained. She used to come here when she needed peace. And when she passed, she left it to me, but I never had the courage to visit, until now. Helena squeezed his hand. Why now? Because now I have something worth bringing here. You. They walked the grounds in silence, simply soaking in the place's understated beauty. Augusto finally stopped in front of a massive tree, its roots deep and its branches reaching for the sky. My grandmother used to say this tree represented true love, deep roots, branches that reach out, and the strength to weather any storm. Helena looked at the tree, touched. It's beautiful. Like you, Augusto said, turning to her, and there, beneath the shade of that tree, he got down on one knee. Helena's eyes widened. Augusto, I know it's early. I know we have a lot to build, but I also know I don't want to spend a single day of my life without you. So, will you marry me? Not right away, but someday, when we're ready. Just tell me you'll say yes. Helena felt tears welling up, and for the first time, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of pure joy. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. He stood, slipping a simple, beautiful ring onto her finger. It wasn't a traditional proposal. It was a promise that no matter what came their way, they would be together. News trickled out to family and friends. Augusto's mum, Martha, cried tears of happiness. Marcelo, Augusto's best friend, threw a small, intimate dinner to celebrate. Even Clarice sent a brief but sincere text. Congratulations, you deserve this. But like any good love story, there were challenges. The press started buzzing again. People had opinions. Judgments were passed. But this time, Helena and Augusto were ready. They knew their love didn't need anyone else's approval, just their own commitment. One rainy night, months later, they were in Helena's apartment, curled up on the couch, watching an old movie. Martha had already gone to bed. They were just being. Do you regret it? Augusto asked suddenly. Helena frowned. Regret what? Choosing me. All of this that came with it. She turned to him, her expression serious. Never, not for a second. Even with everything we've been through, the criticism, the exposure, the judgment, even with all of it. Because in the end, what matters isn't what other people think. It's what we feel. And I feel like you're the best choice I've ever made. Augusto smiled, and he kissed her. Slowly, with all the tenderness in the world. The wedding was a year later. It was simple, intimate, just the people who truly mattered, on the same property where Augusto had asked her to marry him, beneath the shade of the tree that represented everything they had built, deep roots, reaching branches, and the strength to weather any storm. Helena wore a simple, beautiful white dress. Augusto, a discreet suit. Martha sat in the front row, beaming, and as they exchanged their vows, there wasn't a soul present who didn't feel the power of their love. I promise to love you every day, through the good and the bad, in joy and in sorrow, because you taught me that loving isn't about certainty. It's about choosing every single day to be with the one who makes life worth living, Augusto said. And I promise to choose you, always, even when it's hard, even when the world tries to tear us apart, because you showed me that true love isn't perfect, but it's real. And that's enough, Helena replied. And when the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, they kissed amidst the heartfelt applause of everyone there. Years later, when Helena looked back, she was still amazed by everything she had lived through. The pain she had endured, the love she had found, the courage she had needed. She and Augusto now lived on the property. They had turned it into a sanctuary, a place where they welcomed families needing refuge. Martha lived with them, happy and healthy. And on Sunday afternoons, they would sit under the tree, hands clasped, simply enjoying the life they had built together. Do you think we made the right choice? Helena asked one afternoon. Augusto smiled. Every single day. And she smiled back because she knew it was true. And that's how two wounded hearts discovered that love, when it's true, always finds a way. What did you think of this story? What moment touched your heart the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss our love stories.